Welcome to back to Touring the AFC South, I should say. I'm your host, Mike Patton, and of course, Twitter has been around for a while. Twitter Spaces, however, is a new phenomenon out there, and a lot of people are jumping on it. A lot of people are jumping on there, creating spaces, creating their community. My next guest has definitely taken Twitter Spaces by storm. And if you haven't watched or listened, excuse me, if you haven't listened, I should say that goes Twitter Spaces, but if you haven't listened to Twitter Spaces, it can get a little hot in there, but it can also get educational as well. I want to welcome everyone, Sports and Coffee host and media personality, D. What's going on?
Hi, how's it going? It's going good. It's going good. It's busy. It's like the calm before the storm, but the calm before the football season storm, but it ain't really that calm. But it's going great. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me.
Yeah, of course, of course, of course. Now, I do have to ask, of course, since you do have your name up for those that are not watching, we're
Yeah.
talking, but I can see D right now. She has D Love Sports. So I have to ask, when did you fall in love with sports?
I fell in love with, I think it was just in my DNA. Even as a little kid, I mean, my house was originally, we were originally a basketball house. My grandmother is a huge basketball fan. So my family, always watching basketball. I remember watching basketball on those TVs, the TVs that actually sit on the floor. I remember watching, the NBA finals in the living room on one of those kind of TVs. So it's really been around since as far as I can remember. Football, on the other hand, which I caught on a little bit later on in life, but basketball forever.
Gotcha. Now, were you into athletics kind of growing up, or did you just watch more?
Yeah, so basketball, I played basketball. I have really bad sportsmanship. And it might come off on the show if you can't tell. I don't like to lose. I do foul a lot. So I did play basketball. I was not allowed to play on the high school team. The coach already told me we had a pretty good high school team, by the way. He was like, that attitude is not coming on my team, so don't even bother trying out. So I didn't even I didn't play in school, but I played outside with the boys. Yeah, basketball was the main sport that I played.
All right. So you was out there. You weren't Latrell Sprewell and anybody, were you?
I look, I'll throw an elbow. I'm definitely gonna foul you. I ain't no shame in my game.
All right. Now, of course, you did say that some of your attitude can come out in how you talk sports and how you are in sports. Now, of course, there is some attitude that comes along with sports and coffee. And for those that aren't aware, it's Twitter Spaces. It's definitely one that's very, very popular. So I gotta ask, how did that idea for sports and coffee come about?
It just came. So when I didn't even start my sports Twitter until October 2021. And I don't even think I was using it. So mind you, my Twitter is not even a year old. Okay. I didn't even start using it probably until, you know, December, January. And I discovered spaces. I was a big clubhouse head prior. So I was familiar with the concept, right? Um, but more so a listener. So I actually did a lot of dolphin spaces and was in there and got friendly with them. And I noticed like the Steeler, I tried to do a Steeler space every once in a while, but it really wasn't my thing. Like I didn't connect because I knew I could offer more to that platform than just talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I started Sports and Coffee because I wanted to. I knew I enjoyed talking to my Dolphins friends and family and everybody else in this other sports rooms that I would find. So I believe it started on a Saturday. I think it was right after Patrick Mahomes, or either right before Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, or right before it or right after it. I started the show, and I just stayed consistent with it. And it's sports and coffee. It was one morning I got some coffee. I was like, oh, we're gonna have sports and coffee space. Opened it. We started off, of course, with like 5 to 15 people, then 20 to 30, and just that consistency. It grew. Like this is a baby. It's not. It's a little over 6 months old now, and it has grown to, the like one of the top morning sports shows, or this, I will say, the top sports show in the morning on Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, it definitely gets the people talking. I definitely noticed that on my timeline. Unfortunately, I can't join every single one, but I do tune in from time to time to kind of I say check the temperature, I should say.
Yeah, it can
So,
get hot, and it's like it's 9:15 a.m. and like, sometimes these people are on the West Coast, and the beauty of it is, like, people on the West Coast actually do join. It's a ridiculous hour. I can't stand when I'm on the West Coast and I still have to do sports and coffee because it's 6 a.m. And but I'm so thankful for every person. Like it doesn't exist without everybody. Like sports and coffee, yeah, I started it, but it doesn't exist without you know other people contributing to it. So I'm so thankful for that.
right, right. Now, of course, you did mention one of the challenges, of course, being on the West Coast and actually having to still do the show. Now, are there any other challenges that you've kind of taken on and overcome during the show?
Yeah, so one of them is like, now that things are heating up for me, just in where I see my career, and I travel a lot. So and then sometimes, like, the time zones aren't as, like, that's probably a convenient time zone, being 3 hours behind, but then you're 6 hours or 8 hours ahead. And so some of the challenges have been when I have to move. The show can't just stop. I look at it as ESPN or Fox, like, their shows don't stop because the person's not around, they keep going. So I found people like Coach Chris, and that I trust to kind of keep the show going in my absence. And that was one of the challenges I had to figure out how to overcome. And that's why I started the Sports and Coffee actual Twitter page, so that if I'm not there, the show can go on without me.
Definitely, definitely a smart decision right there because yeah, I definitely knows Coach Chris is running it from time to time, stepping in and
Yeah.
keeping the show going. So that's always a great thing to have dependable people. Now, you did mention that you started out trying to do a Pittsburgh Steelers space. And for those that aren't aware, yes, Dee is a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. She is Pittsburgh Steelers to the core.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask, how did it happen? How did the Pittsburgh Steelers fandom kick off?
So, my dad, he is a crazy Steelers fan. I'm crazier now, but he was the crazier fan. And like, growing up, I thought that I liked the Dallas Cowboys or something. I was little. Like, don't blame me here. I was little. I didn't know no better. And it was like the '95 Super Bowl, and my dad was actually deployed. And and when the Cowboys won, I was kind of like, aha, like, joking on the phone, like, aha, your team lost, the Cowboys won. And I could literally hear, like, just the hurt. The hurt in his voice, where you like, and now, like, fast forward, I'm like, oh my God, your child is like clowning you on like, what can you do, your team lost and it's already heartbreaking, and you got your child over here clowning you. I wouldn't know what to do. I would have hung up on me. That, if it were me now and how I feel about this team now. So I've heard the hurt in his voice, and I, like, converted. I subtly converted. He didn't know, but I converted to a Steelers fan after really hearing the hurt in his voice that night.
Definitely an emotional turn. And I
Yeah.
will say this first time I think I've met someone that actually liked the Cowboys and the Steelers in their lifetime. But hey,
I said I didn't know no better. I didn't know. It was 1995. Okay, I didn't know.
well, I had to pick with you just a little bit, just a little bit. But what would you say is your
I've
best
redeemed
memory?
myself.
Yeah, yeah,
Say it
yeah.
again.
What would you say is your best memory as a Steelers fan?
Oh my goodness.
I know
I
there's
don't
been
even
plenty.
know. Well, okay, so I'll start with, like, Ben's last home game. Um, that was just it was just an amazing. I've never seen Heinz Field, because it was Heinz Field at the time, glow like that. It just, I've never felt that energy before. It was just magical. Being there as many times as I've been there, I've never seen the media like that. They were just like hounds, and, like, you could just see flock, like, everywhere Ben went, there was this huddle of this media everywhere. The crowd was just into it. It was amazing. It was almost like nothing bad could go wrong. And I cried. I ain't gonna hold you. I cried. I was like, oh, this is it. I still couldn't really wrap my mind around the fact that this is it. Like he ain't coming back. So yeah, that was probably right now the most memorable.
Huh.
And then
Okay.
the one before that was when they did the ring ceremony for Troy, because I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna be in the same stadium as Troy Polamalu. I was hyped about that.
Okay. All right. Now, of course, I do have to ask you about the name change because that was
Mhm.
interesting. It's going from Heinz Field to was it Accenture Field? Is that what it is now?
AccuSure, something like that. I think it's
I
AccuSure.
I
And
couldn't.
at first, it was just like, what? But then, like, coming back to the city today and being here, and it's still Heinz right now. I can see it out my window. It's still Heinz. And a lot of the city is still Heinz. So, Heinz doesn't might go away from that building, but it doesn't go away from the city. People are still going to call it that. And if someone paid you $150 million, you would change your name to. So that's how. If somebody gave you that kind of money, you definitely change your name. So I ain't even like, what am I? What's me being mad about it gonna do now? Like take your money for the next 15 years. This is what it's gonna be, and who knows if the stadium's gonna be here in the next 15 years.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this is an AFC South show, and there's a team in the AFC South that has a
Oh, Malik
little
Willis
bit of
team.
history. What's that?
Malik Willis team. My son.
Yeah, that'd be the Tennessee Titans. Of course, there's a little bit of history with them being AFC Central rivals, and then also they were back. Of course, it goes back to the Houston Oilers days, of course, and then now, the Titans and the Steelers. A few bumps in the road, a few wins for the Titans, a few bad losses as well. Now I'm
Hmm.
gonna go back to the AFC Central days when they were the Houston Oilers a little bit, and they were the Tennessee Oilers playing in Memphis. I mean, I'm just thinking
What's your
about those
fondest memory
days.
of that?
I don't have too many fond memories of that one, to be honest. But um, do you remember anything from back when they were the Oilers or before they switched over to being the Titans?
No, I don't. Like honestly, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the Titans until like Dick LeBeau went there, and
Mhm.
when Dick LeBeau went there and took a couple of guys with him, you paid attention to which you wanted him to be successful because you know where he came from and you know what he was capable of, right? So
Mhm.
I paid attention to them then, and of course, you pay attention to Derrick Henry all the time, right? And then when you guys picked up Bud Dupree, I was like, okay, I didn't want him to go. Unfortunately, he did get hurt, and I knew that they weren't going to be able to pay him and TJ Watt, right? What probably he deserved. And then now you guys have my favorite kid out of the draft, Malik Willis. So I'm gonna be rooting for y'all, low key. So gotta get me a Malik Willis jersey. I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, he's actually a really nice guy. I've actually talked to him. Talked to him once. I actually got to ask him a few questions during, I
Mhm.
believe, was it OTAs? I believe got a few
Mhm.
questions. And definitely a very good media personality. So he definitely knows what he's doing when he's talking to media. So
He's a
that'll
good
bode very
kid.
well.
He's a good kid. A good head on his shoulder. I had the opportunity to talk to one of his aunts during draft weekend in Vegas, and at the time he wasn't drafted, and I'm making my case, and I believe she wanted him, to be home in Georgia and Atlanta. So
Hmm.
but he just seems like he comes from a great family, and a great home, and just raised well. I call him my son, but yeah, I've loved the kid before. Right when the news came out about Pittsburgh, I was just like, there's something about this kid beyond, just football. And from what I could see, I really liked the kid as a person. Um, and so I became very, very fond and was rooting for him no matter where he went. even though I wanted him here, but I was rooting for him wherever he went. So y'all got a little bit of a fan of me by default.
Well, I would say that some of that fandom that you might think about that twice when you think about something that happened in the past, which would be the towel stomp around the Lindell White days. And I believe there
Mhm.
was one Titan that actually blew his nose with the terrible towel. Now, I know how
Nobody
Pittsburgh
knows
Steelers
them. They
fans,
ain't no Hall of Famers, are they?
exactly, I
Right.
agree. But I will say that the terrible towel and Pittsburgh are synonymous with each other. How did I mean? What can you describe just the feeling that goes into the terrible towel when somebody disrespects the terrible towel? I don't quite understand it fully, and I figured you might be a person
Yeah,
that could actually
it's
explain it better.
really, especially for teams. I've done it to people. Like I've seen people do different things to the towel to be, spiteful. I'd be like, "Well, your team lost. You just disrespected the towel." And sometimes it actually happens. Their team does lose. Excuse me, but it's just like it's a sacred thing, right? If you're an opposing team, you don't disrespect. Like everybody wanted to talk about the logo thing and dancing on the logo as a sign of disrespect. Just that terrible towel in so many ways is a logo of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It represents so much to the fans and the team. Like it's we don't have we do have like a mascot. We don't really have cheerleaders, but like it's almost like our pom poms, right? So you can't do that. Like you cannot disrespect that. Like I know people have other little towels that they give away at games, but this is the towel. This towel this towel carries with this team everywhere they go. It's not just a one time stadium giveaway.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. Definitely, you don't want to disrespect the towel because it can bring the worst out
No,
in
like
Pittsburgh
ask
Steelers
the
fans.
Cincinnati Bengals who else disrespected the towel. It's been a few people that disrespected the towel and had to pay for it.
Ah, boy, oh boy. Now, of course, we're going to transition from the Steelers and Titans. Of course, we did talk about your show, which, of course, is on Twitter Spaces, Sports and Coffee. It is
Mhm.
at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sports and Coffee. Just get that in your mind, all that are listening and watching. But
Mhm.
we're going to play a game to kind of finish out the show. I got 5 questions for you, 2 answers. You got to pick one. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. Now, the first one, if you had to pick a team to cheer for, the Browns or the Ravens?
I'm never cheering for the Browns. I'm never cheering for the Browns. Never. I actually live in Maryland, so I don't have I can't cheer for the Ravens just because of the divisional rival. But if I could, I would. I like Lamar Jackson. If I could cheer for Baltimore, I would. But I can't. But I would not ever cheer for the Browns.
It seems to be a feeling across the way up there in the AFC North. But
Yeah, I have respect for the Ravens. I don't have no respect for the Browns.
oh, there he
So.
goes. Now, all right, we're going to go new school versus old school in terms of safeties for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We got Minka
Mhm.
Fitzpatrick or Troy Polamalu.
Mm. I hold these two men kind to my heart. Eesh. What I got to pick one.
You got to pick one. If you got to go with one today to be your team leader, to be the face of your team, your defense, who are you picking?
I can't do this. Next, no, I don't know. That's tough, y'all. People know how I feel about Minka Fitzpatrick, and I equate that to how I felt about Troy Polamalu and how I feel about Troy Polamalu. So it's really, really hard. But because I've watched Troy longer, I will go with. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, Mink. I will go with Troy. Just because I could sit there and watch Troy Polamalu highlights. I can do the same thing for Minka, but there's a lot more Troy highlights right now. But the end of Minka's career, I think it'll be hard for me to say or pick. But Troy Polamalu I could just watch his film all day and just be amazed by some of the plays that he makes. Like that man was next level right there. I just.
Yeah, yeah, he
Yeah,
definitely was
Minka's
a
on his way, but like I'm just gonna have to go with Troy for now.
yeah, he definitely was a player that was unique in his own way, the way he played, definitely.
Like, seeing that man fly through the air over those lines, like what? Over that defensive line,
Right,
what? Come
right. It was
on,
amazing to watch.
man.
I'm gonna go quarterbacks. And of course, one of them was a team you mentioned, and one of them, well, actually, both of them were the team you mentioned. We're gonna go Lamar Jackson or Dak Prescott.
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, all right, all right, all right. And I was wondering
That was
because I was like,
easy.
man, I was just wondering how much Lamar Jackson slander we were gonna hear today because I'm like, man, I couldn't
No, I
believe he
don't
wasn't
really
in the
slander
ESPN top 10.
Lamar.
No,
I
no, not
don't
you,
slander. Oh, okay,
not
yeah. I
no,
actually
not you.
like Lamar Jackson. I know it's probably hard for people to wrap their minds around that because of my love for Pittsburgh, but I think Lamar is phenomenal. I don't think he's in the best situation, and the ball's in his court right now. So who knows what could happen in the future? But I really like Lamar Jackson, and I'm excited for the future when he's not playing us.
Gotcha. Now I'm gonna go back into the secondary, and I'm gonna go with a few guys that are definitely Steeler greats. You're gonna start your secondary. Which one are you gonna pick? Rod Woodson or Carnell Lake?
Rod, I like Rod Woodson. I'm gonna go with Rod Woodson.
He definitely,
Yeah,
and the key thing is that's also interesting. Rod also played cornerback. He played safety too, and played safety for the Ravens when they won the
yeah, he's
title.
like a utility knife, right? Like the man
Well, both of them
is
did
so
actually.
yeah, he's so talented, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's gonna be coaching in the XFL. So shout out to Rod. I actually had an honor to meet him over Super Bowl weekend. So he's pretty dope.
Nice,
So I'm going Rod with
nice.
him.
Okay, all right. And then the last one, of course, I couldn't go without picking anybody from the front lines of Pittsburgh. Of course, in the outside linebacker position,
TJ
James
Watt.
Harrison or Joey Porter.
Ooh,
no,
that's good. I just knew it was TJ. Um,
no, I knew you'd pick TJ if I said TJ. So
yeah.
I was like, nah, let me take him out of
Dang. So I mean, if you did James and TJ, that would be tough. But
it.
just because, yeah, I'm gonna go James because I mean James has had some phenomenal plays. I mean, just thinking about that Super Bowl touchdown. I mean, I'm gonna go James. I'm not saying Joey has contributed on the field and off the field. He was coaching for us for a short period of time, but I'm gonna go James Harrison.
All right, all right. Now we do have somebody talking to us in the touring the AFC South inbox to be Mr. Courtney Harding. What's good, people? What's going
Hi,
on, Courtney?
Courtney. How you
All right.
doing? Thanks for joining
Now,
us.
now that has wrapped up the game portion of the show, and that's actually wrapped up the show. So I want to thank you for coming on. I
You're
want to,
welcome. Thank you for having me.
yeah, of course, of course. Now, of course, with this show, I want to give you the last words in terms of, or the last, I should say, little bit of the show to actually talk about what you have going on, where people can find you, where people can, I guess, get with what all you have going on, or if you want to tell people something you have going on.
Yeah. So of course, Sports and Coffee on Twitter Spaces. Follow me, D Love Sports. That's why I put the name in there. I'm D Love Sports on everything: Instagram, Twitter, my YouTube. I post to YouTube. I try to post every week, but it's just really hard with all the movement I have. So Twitter Spaces, Sports and Coffee. Catch me on there. I got the little shirt on today, just for a little advertisement. So catch me on Twitter, Instagram as well, and YouTube. And as things go and these camps go and other events happening, I have some events coming up. So stay locked in.
All right. Well, I will say this since you didn't say it. Okay, you do have HBCU is HBCU is it Tuesdays?
Tuesdays.
Yes, and
Tuesdays.
you
Yes,
have and you have had a couple guests in HBCU Tuesdays, which would be
I have.
NFL Network Steve Weish, and you've
Steve
also
White.
had Jimmy Smith. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, and we have more coming. It's a weird time right now with my schedule, and so we have more coming. I'm excited about our future guests, so stay tuned. So HBCU Tuesdays is near and dear to my heart. Another person, I should say, that comes in a lot, that does a lot for the community that we don't talk about, and he's a huge supporter of mine. Is Uncle Luke, and Uncle Luke from Miami. And if you know what he does in the community, what he's doing at Madison High School, like he's doing a lot for these young Black kids in football and getting them into deals and in colleges. Like he's doing a phenomenal job. So I have to highlight him too. He's never been labeled as a special guest, but he does come in and show love, and I really can't even thank him enough.
All right, all right. Then we did have Mr. Scott Wallace stop into the touring the AFC South inbox. He said HBCU Tuesdays. Yes,
Yes. On
HBCU
Tuesday we
Tuesdays.
talk HBCU. Actually one of our highest rated shows was HBCU talk, and we were talking about Nick Saban and Deion Sanders. We had over 1,800 listeners that day. So HBCU Tuesday is a big deal for sports and coffee. So pull up.
Now, Scott, for you, if you don't know, that is on Twitter Spaces. That is on 9:00 a.m. on 9:00 a.m. on Twitter Spaces. It's Eastern Standard Time, and I guess he's claiming himself as Mr. HBCU. So I'm thinking he's going to be there.
Time. It gets a little heated, People talk about their experiences, and I enjoy it. I can't wait to get some people that I met from the symposium on there to talk HBCU.
Well, you need to actually get that gentleman too, because he actually is the SID for Fisk University, and he also does announcing for Tennessee State in terms of their games.
Come on, you Tuesday, be there on Tuesday. I'm looking at my watch because I'm like calendar Tuesday. Be there.
He said he'll be there. He said
All
he'll
right.
Be there. All right. Well, thank everyone for listening and watching. You've been tuned in to Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We're out.
Go, Mike. Peace. Thanks. Bye.